Okay, my name is Matthew, and we're back to part 2 of my 6K Q&A answers. And I'll read this again. I read it at the end of the last one, but David Hall, hello. Congrats. Any plans for big read-alongs this year? I expect you're busy with the new BK, Brothers Karamazov, but maybe another long Russian novel this winter. Your Brothers Karamazov and Magic Mountain read-alongs are some of the most enjoyable experiences I've had on BookTube, so hope you plan another soon. Best, David. Well, thank you so much for the kind words. I have become much more reluctant to have announcement videos or announcements and things participating in read-alongs or long events. And the reason is I've had a few instances where I feel like I haven't held up my end of the bargain, where I've at least disappointed myself, where I've said, oh, I'm going to read this book and we can read this book together. And then I disappear for a long period of time, or I just move on to something else, or something happens that prevents me from keeping a regimented schedule if I had promised that. And there are a lot of reasons for it, but I guess if I do decide to do it, I will have to take it seriously and just say, this is what I've promised to do, and then do that. One of the issues is I have a different position at work, which has consumed my time much more than I had expected. Last year in March, I decided to read every single Sherlock Holmes short story and to make a video for every single Sherlock Holmes short story in a month, and it was like 54 or 56 videos, so I had to read multiple stories a day and record those videos each day, and I was actually really proud of accomplishing that. But it was the next month, or relatively soon afterwards, where I had gotten another position. And it would have been impossible at the time to read and record all of those videos. Right now I am reading Middlemarch by George Eliot. And it's one of those kind of books where it's long enough that breaking it up into segments I've found has been helpful. I know sometimes people will say, can you let us know what you're going to be reading in advance before the video? Which is tough because I don't make videos for everything that I read now. But I can still make long form videos without making any promises. So there's that too. Daniel Franceschi. Congrats, Matthew. Thank you. I'm just wondering how you decide what book to read next. I've already noticed that you constantly reread books. Don't you feel guilty in some way for not reading the books that are on the shelf unread? I'm asking this because it's a persistent sentiment for me. It depends. Of course, it's a bad start to the answer. So, just for example, I was reading the Karamazov brothers, and there were references to Gogol and Schiller and Pushkin and Tolstoy, and I took breaks and read a bunch of Gogol short stories and read some Pushkin poetry, and having kind of the Russians on my mind while I'm reading that. I've had kind of runs where um, I'll just start reading plays by Aeschylus and Euripides and Sophocles, and kind of spend time in that world. Typically, what I like to have is some main book that I'm reading, and then supplemental material around that. Usually poetry, but not always. It can be other shorter fiction or nonfiction. As far as the books on my shelves that are unread, there are a few, but for the most part, the large majority of the books that I have read. Some of the ones that I haven't read would things like um, um, big volumes of like collected poetry where um, I haven't read every single Yeats poem, for example. Um, Other things that I haven't read yet, like I was mentioning earlier with Livy, it's a working project. A good example might be the Trollope novels. I one day bought like six Trollope novels just in one shot, and I think I've read two of the six. So I'm, that I feel guilty about. I do want to read those, but I like rereading things too. Um, my recommendation would be to not feel guilty. Um, Arsenal and I. There's a hand clap. Um, Congrats, thank you. I'm rereading Moby Dick and absolutely loved it. About halfway and marking passages I love and taking my time with it. A few years ago, I rushed through it and finished it in a few days and hated it. My question is, what's the book for you that changed your opinion about it on a second reading? I always find myself rereading the books that went over my head instead of rereading the books that I love. Um, so, yeah, the last question was about rereading also, and I know Oscar Wilde has one of his quotes where he says like anything that's not worth reading twice isn't worth reading the first time or something like that. Um, really great books. I always get something out of. There's stories and novels that I've read many times and can still find something in them. One of the things that I like doing as far as rereading, if I find something I like a lot, is to read multiple translations, um, just to get these different voices, these different echoes of the same story. As far as something that I've read, I keep talking about the Karamazov brothers, but it's just that it's on my mind. But um, the first time I read it, it felt like it was just like the most challenging book, and it was just not following the characters, and the ideas were so big, and there was just so much work that I had to do on my end, and it could be from the rereadings, but I think it's from living, and also all the other reading and learning that I had done. That at some point I read the book and found just so much enjoyment in it. And there's still challenges. It's not like it's a book you could say is just totally, completely easy. But I did have a change of heart in that. I'm trying to think of... I can't think of any book that I read that I didn't like and then went back and found that it was like a masterpiece or something. Okay. Someone... I don't know what's going on with these pictures, but there's like a party horn. Okay. Aaron Facer, hello. Congratulations, Matthew. Thank you. Here's my question. I've heard you talk about Charlie Chaplin and Buster Keaton before, but do you like Laurel and Hardy or the Marx Brothers? If so, do you have any films of theirs? I've never been a big fan of Laurel and Hardy. Um, Also, I haven't watched very much, so, and also it's been a very long time. But the Marx Brothers, I think, are hilarious. I don't own any of their uh, videos or movies, but A Night at the Opera and Horse Feathers. I mean, there's dozens of these Marx Brothers movies, and Harpo with that horn and his that big overcoat that, of course, um, Groucho with the cigar and the painted on mustache and the endless one-liners. I used to know a few of the one-liners, but they're escaping me now. If it pops into my mind, I'll think I'll. But yeah, Charlie Chaplin, Buster Keaton, Marx Brothers, hilarious. I love them. Eric Zeleninsky. Congrats, Matthew. I've noticed you don't have as much time for booktubing. Why so? I always enjoy the videos best. Um, so I mentioned earlier with just my personal life has changed. My uh, work time, personal time, that balance. It's not like it's bad, but it's just different. Where I prefer to have that time with my cats, spending time with my girlfriend, reading my books, and sometimes not really. At this point, I tend to try to make videos if I'm thinking about making videos. Um, I just think about it on days off, and instead of making videos at the end of the day or before work or things like that. I will say my enthusiasm had slightly dampened um, at different periods. Not so much negative comments that I had gotten, which some of them were kind of mean. Um, but there had been other things where I had seen videos of someone being just repulsively insulting to a friend of mine that makes videos, and watching it was hurtful. And seeing the comments of people that just um, seemingly just didn't mind like obscenity laced diatribes of someone hurling insults, and when it's someone you know, it um, it's difficult, and so there was a period of time where I just thought, like, I don't know, like, I didn't make one of those videos saying like I'm stopping booktube or anything, but my motivation went down, and I'm a creature of habit. So if I'm doing something consistently, then it's just part of my routine and I'm doing it. And then if I stop doing it, I just fill that time in other ways. Um, but I do enjoy making videos. I'm not saying, you know, insults and bad comments and things like that break my heart and ruin me, and I'm never going to do it again. But um, it did leave me with hurt feelings and a slightly different attitude. But in general, I like to think about the positive, and I like the idea that um, you know, no matter what other people are doing, I can bring a little bit of goodness or entertainment in my way. Um, okay, well, thank you so much. Let's see. Okay, so I'll stop here and then we'll do another one. 14 minutes. And thank you.